Super excited to have you guys. My name is Michaela Toigui. I'm one of the moderators today. So we're still waiting on a little bit more people to come in, and then we'll go ahead and get started with our program. Jalen, how many people did we let in already?
I let in 8.
Okay. Maybe we'll wait another minute or two, and then we'll go ahead and get started, Julia.
It's a good crowd so far. It looks like there's 8 participants.
We are excited.
I'm excited. My daughter's here. She just flew in from college, so it's been hard to say you're here. I see you're in Zoom.
How wonderful.
Hi, I see Alana, Maria, Iris, welcome. Jillian, Gavin, welcome. Welcome, Eva. I know your mom's happy to have you home.
Cool. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay, Julia, you can just go ahead and start. And then people can trickle in during the welcome. That's fine.
All right. Hi, hi, welcome to joining us after this busy schedule. I hope we can show them nothing but respect tonight. I'm Julia, HPU's marketing director, and I'll be going over the house rules. So please avoid having distracting backgrounds and mute your mics. If your camera is on, please refrain from going on your phone, eating, or doing homework while on this call. Let's treat this as if we're listening to them in person. If you have any questions or comments, please message us in the chat box. Remember, everyone to the host. Disrespect of any sort or hate comments will not be tolerated and be kicked out immediately. Respectful as we try to be respectful of other people's views. Now, I would like to give it over to her campus co-president, Maya. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Maya, one of Her Campus HPU co-presidents and editor-in-chief. Her Campus is an online magazine company written for and by college women and allies in efforts to enhance the college experience by giving students their own voice and a platform. Our organization has over 200 chapters across the world who all aim to promote self-motivation, interest, and confidence by writing articles anywhere between dorm decors and post-college lifestyle. We have recently revived Her Campus chapter here at HPU, and we are very excited to have you all here today at our first major event.
Hi everyone, I'm Jadelyn. I'm our other co-president and social media director. I wanted to introduce the rest of our officers who helped make this event possible. In addition to Julia, Maya, and myself, we have our newest event executive board member, Mia, as our senior editor, and Michaela, our event director, who has put a lot of work into making our event tonight possible. We also wanted to give a special thanks to Akamai Advertising Club with their support for this event, and of course, our advisor, Professor Manzulli, for helping us put this event together and guiding us through this process.
Michaela, we can't hear you.
Sorry. Aloha and good evening, everyone. My name is Michaela Rhea Toigui. I am the HPU Her Campus Events Director. I will be moderating tonight's panel alongside Professor AnnMarie Manzulli. Professor Manzulli is a career instructional faculty in the Department of Communication at Hawaii Pacific University. She has over 25 years of professional experience in the advertising, marketing, and PR industry. She ran her own advertising agency for many of those years. She holds a bachelor's degree in visual communications from Northern Illinois University and a master's degree in advertising from Medill at Northwestern University in Chicago. Manzulli joined HPU in 2009 and has since taught a range of courses for the Department of Communication, including mass communication, writing, public speaking, creativity, media strategies, and sales, and the Capstone Integrated Campaign Experience. She is the faculty advisor for 2 registered student organizations, AnnMarie Advertising Agency and Her Campus, and also coaches HPU's National Student Advertising Competition team. Professor Manzulli and myself will be introducing tonight's panelists. Our first panelist is, and I'm so happy to introduce, Dr. Deborah Ross, who is a professor of English. Dr. Deborah Ross started teaching at Hawaii Pacific University in 1985. She teaches everything from freshman writing through the senior textual theory seminar. Courses she has developed in her specialty are entitled Sex, Power, Narrative, and Women and Madness. Her research interests mainly involve how issues of power and gender affect the shape of the stories people tell. And she has looked at everything from the birth of the English novel to soap operas to Disney and Miyazaki. She also teaches creative nonfiction and publishes both short fiction and nonfiction.
Thank you so much for being here, Deborah. I would like to introduce our next panelist, Jennifer Tanabe. She is a partner and creative director in the branding agency Wall to Wall Studios. Wall to Wall is happy to have Jen as their only female partner. She holds a Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Graphic Communications from the School of Art at Washington University in St. Louis. Joining Wall to Wall in 2012, Jen worked as a designer, art director, creative director capacity in St. Louis and San Francisco before returning to her home in Honolulu. Jen has also has over 20 years of experience creating compelling campaigns for a variety of brands. Since becoming part of the Wall to Wall team, Jen has been involved with leading the creative development of award-winning work for clients, including Hawaii National Bank, Outrigger Hotels and Resorts, Chaminade University, Tory Richards, Hawaii Energy, Surf Jack Hotel and Swim Club, and Hawaii Pacific Health, just to name a few. She currently serves on the board of directors at Diamond Head Theater and is the past president of the regional chapter of American Advertising Federation, or AAF Hawaii. And in 2016, Jen was named AAF Hawaii's Advertising Woman of the Year. Thanks so much for being here, Jen. I'd also like to introduce next Vasquez. She's a director and producer for Kinetic Productions. And I was fortunate to meet Faye through AAF Hawaii on a kind of an event quite like this online. Now, working as a freelancer her entire life, Faye has worn many hats as a first assistant director, script supervisor, and producer. In addition to her freelance work, Faye has recently been signed to Kinetic Productions to join their directing team. As a director and producer for Kinetic Productions, Faye works closely with the team of producers and fellow directors on commercial projects for local clientele. As a female director, she brings a fresh and unique perspective to an innovative and dynamic Kinetic Productions. Prior to joining Kinetic, Vasquez spent 15 years serving as a top associate director in Venezuela. She ran sets for local and international productions, in addition to being a producer and associate director in Hawaii. Born and raised in Venezuela, Faye has earned her first film degree from Escuela de Cine and Televisione, I think I said that correctly, as valedictorian in Caracas. And she then continued to earn a Bachelor's of Arts summa cum laude in creative media from University of Hawaii. Thank you so much for being with us today. Faye.
Yes, thank you, ladies, for joining us. I would like to now introduce Rylee Brooke Kamahele. She is a nonprofit founder, actress, TV host, model, entrepreneur, etc. Rylee's platform is to turn youth into leaders and to create change in the world by inspiring other kids. She works towards building this platform through her soon-to-be nonprofit organization, the Catalyst Club, and the many projects run under its 3 programs: the Love is a Verb Foundation, the Secret Santa Project Hawaii, and Promise to Our Keiki. Rylee currently partners and works with over 20 different organizations in Hawaii that serve the community in different ways. Rylee's programs have been running successfully in Hawaii communities and doing some big things since 2016. She is finally in the process of applying for 501c3 status, something that has been put on hold while she piloted her programs and decided how to structure her complex organizations and the way they are set up to be managed by youth. The Love is a Verb Foundation, the Secret Santa Project Hawaii, and Promise to Our Keiki are basically their own organizations. However, rather than creating 3 separate nonprofits, the decision was made to establish them all as freestanding programs under one umbrella nonprofit organization, the Catalyst Club. Thank you for joining us, Rylee.
That's our youngest speaker here today, so we're so happy.
Yes.
Next, I'd like to introduce Shing Ting. Hi, Shing. She serves as editorial director for High Luxury at Oahu Publications, where she also serves as fashion editor and stylist. Her duties include writing and coordinating shopping sections of Go Magazine, Go Kapolei Magazine, Pacific Journey Magazine, Aloha Hilton Waikoloa, and Aloha Hilton Hawaiian Village magazines. Additionally, she's managing editor at Midweek, where she has been covering fashion, fitness, entertainment, and news for the past 20 years, which I think is when I first met you about 20 years ago, right? Among the celebrities she's styled for photo shoots are Mariska Hargitay, Daniel Day Kim, Scott Kahn, Marcus Dacascos, Pierce Bronson, Marcus Mariota, Bethany Hamilton, Masioko, Ming Tsai, Henry Ian Cusack. There's so many other names here. She's also interviewed some of Hollywood's biggest stars for stories in print, including Morgan Freeman, Jason Momoa, Mariska Hargitay, Terry Crews, Wayne Brady, Kelly Preston, Jackie Chan, and a host of others. Yuxing also serves as an executive director for the Chinese Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii. She graduated from University of Hawaii at Manoa with a bachelor's degree in journalism and is a mother of 3 boys, age 13, 10, and 2. Wow. Thanks for joining
Welcome, Yuxing. Thank you for joining us. And thank you, Professor Manzulli, and thank you to all of our amazing panelists for taking the time to be here with us today. Please know, everybody, that we will be having a Q&A section at the end as well as a giveaway. Now we would like to begin our panel with some context. Her campus was started to give women a platform and a voice in the same way the modern feminist is capable, strong, educated, and empowered to advocate for equal rights and opportunities amongst the sexes. In addition, the modern feminist uplifts and empowers women and allies to be unapologetic in their identities as they stand together against injustices of the system. And now for our opening question. Ladies, our panelists, any of you can jump in, and then we can go down the line if anybody else has anything to add. So our opening question is, many people have specific picture of what a modern feminist should be. How would you define the modern feminist in your own words? If anybody wants to jump in.
I will, if that's okay. Yeah, I've been really thinking about this all week, and I've been focusing on that word modern, because as the old person here, I'm thinking in terms of the second wave, the third wave, the fourth wave, and I've been thinking a lot about what happened in the second wave that was part of that program that never happened, you know, that never got fixed. And then we just started a new wave somehow. And I think some of that stuff got lost and some of it is still really relevant. But, you know, I'm thinking that probably what I have to offer to this panel is some kind of historical memory of what went before. And what I'm really anxious to hear from everybody who's younger is, you know, what is it like for you now? And I'm especially interested to hear more from people who are in the media and thinking about images of women, which has been sort of a scholarly focus for me. That it seems to me like the sources of where some of those images come from, it's kind of been forgotten about, or it's, you know, we're sort of in an eternal now. So I'm really anxious to hear more about that. So I think I'm here more to learn than anything else.
We are happy to have you. You are still young, Dr. Ross.
It's just the hair dye.
Did anybody else have anything else to add?
Oh, I'll jump in. This is Jen.
Sure.
So everything that you said in your description, I would completely agree with. But I think part of what I've honed in personally in a very specific way is the financial piece in all of this. I think that there's very few people who these days would openly say that, you know, women don't have a place in whatever industry or whatever organization they want to be a part of. I mean, the type of, I would say, sexism that I've experienced over the course of my career, over the last 23 years or so, has been more subtle. You know, it's deferring to the male voice in the room. It's maybe getting a slightly different title than someone who's doing the same thing. And it's just that, you know, quieting that internal monologue that you're not worthy of being there. I think that's something that we all struggle with to a certain degree. But I think one thing that I've taken with me since my childhood, watching my mother go through, you know, abuse from my father, and especially using money as a weapon, is I really believe that you know, teaching women from a young age that financial literacy and independence is really a key to being able to do whatever it is that you want to do. I feel like that piece of it is not talked about enough. Even in this day and age, I think a lot of us grew up with this idea that talking about money or salary is not polite, but that's something that I would just add to that definition of the modern feminist. And I just also want to add, because I know Professor Ross has mentioned a few times, like she thinks she's too old. I mean, part of this, I think, is being open to the idea that a modern feminist can be anybody, right? I mean, we have to be supportive of each other, whether you're 13 or you're 70, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, whether you're a working mom with 3 sons. Being a feminist is not gender specific in my mind. And I think that we have to be supportive that you can look and have different experiences. And I think that's what really collectively makes us stronger.
Yeah, can I just jump in there too, because just to add to that, one of the things people think of as sort of quaint about the second wave is these nice white middle-class women were fighting for, you know, silly things. One of them was, why does my husband never wash a dish? And, you know, that translates into why we don't make as much money. And right now, when kids are staying home from school and a parent has to stay home, I've read 3 articles that point out that it's going to be mom who will stay home, and that's going to take you off the career track again for another, you know, so we're all going back to, you know, that little silly thing about my husband won't wash dishes is turned into this whole big, even Uber drivers that are women, where it's supposed to be completely gender blind, make less money than men. So yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I feel like that's so important to understand, you know, the things that we go through financially as women, the obstacles that we face. So that's so important. Thank you for pointing that out, both of you. Anybody else would like to add anything?
Just adding on to what those 2 amazing women said, I love your guys' answers. Adding on to what you guys said, I think the definition of a modern feminist is someone who understands the worth of themselves and other females, and understands that they deserve equality, rights, opportunities, and respect, and just strong women who themselves, like unapologetically themselves. I said that weird, but just women who are themselves. And absolutely, I agree with us breaking the stereotypes of women having to be the stay-at-home people.
Yes,
I would
thank
like
you,
to add
Rylee.
something else.
Sure.
I totally second everything that all these amazing, powerful women have shared before. And I would like to add that as a modern feminist, I 100% believe we have the power of choice. We can choose. In this time, space, reality, we have the power to choose whether we stay home or not, or go to a career or whatever. So I just wanted to add that.
Yes, so important. Yishin, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is that, you know, I thought about this question since we had a little bit of time to think about it. And same thing, I think we all kind of feel the same way of what a modern feminist is. And I think what it comes down to is being able to not just be yourself, but be who you want to be. Like everyone already kind of said, is, you know, whatever that is, because I think a long time ago, the women were pictured as the one who stayed home and took care of the family and washed the dishes and, you know, did all that. But today, I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's totally fine. But you can also be the breadwinner in the family. You can be the CEO. You can be, or, you know, you can be a career woman, an athlete, a housewife. I mean, you can be whatever you want to be. And hopefully you can, the goal though, I think, is to be able to do those things with the same opportunities as men, you know, being able to accomplish those goals and be who you want to be without judgments, prejudice, you know, that I think is what I hope, you know, is what I hope is happening. And I hope women, I think that's the goal.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing. We wanted to jump in to women in industry. I think that's a good segue into everything, the big issue, the overall issue. So we're going to jump into our women in industry category, and then Professor Manzulli will kick us off with a question.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's great. First of all, I'm delighted to hear all the different perspectives and also identify the thread between each of our guest speakers here. It's fantastic. So what this next question wants to take a look at is now dig in a little bit, and from each of you, of your different perspectives, if you could share, please, you know, how has sexism, you know, or racism or ageism in this case, been an obstacle in your career or your life at what point? And we would love to hear what you did to break through that particular barrier. If you would share.
I would love to share my own experience. And it's based here 100% in Hawaii. So I have been fortunate enough to experience both sides of the spectrum. And when I landed in Hawaii, I had no friends, no family, no relationship. I was a total white canvas. I had experience from home, but it didn't mean anything because nobody could relate to it, right? Nobody knew what I was capable of. So in the beginning, I was faced with raw racism and sexism. And I was told in my face that I had two major problems in order to be able to break into the industry and to fulfill my goals. One of them was, I'm a foreigner, true, I'm from Venezuela. And then the second was, I am a woman. 100% true reality, right? It's a fact. My heart was shattered and I felt like an ant smashed by an elephant because in my home motherland, I never experienced that. So I had a career. I came here with a career, aiming for something, and all of this sudden I'm 100% on the other side of the coin. So let's see. I could have dwelled in the pain and become a victim, right? Or I could have used my sex and my race to fuel my work. And I chose the second one. So I truly believe that those are actually my weapons. That is what I bring to the table. That is what steps up my game, the fact that I am different. So nowadays in the same industry, there is plenty of people that acknowledge that and that are totally open to who I am, that supports me, that embrace me, and to wants to see me thrive. So this happened 9 years ago, and today, recently, I was offered to be signed by Kinetic Productions, one of the most powerful production companies in town, and I am their first female director.
Bravo.
Did anybody else have anything to add? That's so awesome, Faith. Thank you for sharing.
I guess I can. Oh.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, kind of just touching on, I think similarly to Faye is, I think I've been, ageism is something that you deal with at all ages. So for example, when I first entered the industry, I was straight out of college. I was the young person in the youngest person in the office. And of course, you know, I felt like there was these expectations and this pressure to prove myself to the people who've been there longer. And then now, being one of the older, you know, seniors in the office, and then we have these younger staffers in the office. It's just as important to kind of prove that you still kind of know what's current and what's going on and what's happening. So I do feel like that's something that we deal with no matter what age we're at, whether we're on the younger side or the older side. It's something we have to deal with. But with ageism and also with sexism, which I also do feel like did exist, and I did experience throughout my career as well, is at the end, it's about proving yourself through your work. So, you know, so that whatever thoughts people had about you because you were a woman, or you were or you were young, or you were old, or whatever, if you do your job and you do your job well, none of that matters, is kind of what I've learned. But that's it.
I would totally echo what Shing said. I mean, I was just thinking that before she said it, was that I feel like women experience this sort of perpetual ageism, you know, like being a young person entering in advertising. I felt like it was easy, or maybe people felt it was easier to dismiss me because what did I know? I was only 23, I was only 25, I was only 27. And I remember thinking to myself, I can't wait till I turn 30. You know, I think that's where I'll really start to feel like comfortable in my career. And then now that I'm like the second oldest person in my office in a very progressive industry that's changing on a daily basis, it's ensuring your relevancy, right? And ensuring that the staff and anyone around you believes and understands that you're a lifelong learner in your area of expertise, that it's not a stagnant thing. And I think, as both Faye and Shing said, I think the many times that were incredibly discouraging in my career were either I was dismissed because I knew it was because I was a female. I had internships where the creative director that hired me, one particular internship in St. Louis, he actually tried to proposition me as sort of he thought he was doing me a favor by giving me the internship. And I got out of that terrible situation by actually pretending to just be ignorant, that I didn't know what he was trying to get at. He implied that I needed to be very grateful to him, and I knew what he was getting at, but I just ignored it, and I just did everything I could to become the best intern that I could be. And that's what I've done at every step of my career. And sometimes you're going to feel like, why should I have to try so hard to prove that I have a place in this room? But I know that similarly, people of, so I'm willing to do what it takes to show my peers, my clients, my colleagues that whatever it is, I'm going to try to be the best that I possibly can at it. And by focusing on that, and by focusing perpetually on excelling in my skills, it helps to sort of quiet those voices, either that come from within you or externally, that question, your right, or the validity of you having the position that you have. It seems strange to say this, but I think AnnMarie mentioned this. I'm the first female partner at Wall to Wall Studios. Wall to Wall Studios was founded in 1992. And it was kind of astonishing to me to be the first female in 2019 who was a partner. But there were very few women who actually worked at Wall to Wall over the course of its existence. But it was just striking to me that in 2019, they had never had anybody to put in that position. And then I had those sort of voices of self-doubt, like, did I get put in this position because I am a, biracial woman? Did they just feel like they needed to fill that position? And then I had to tell myself, no, I earned this role and I have a right to be here. But it is difficult. You just have to do what you can to quiet those voices. A lot of them are coming just from within your own head.
Yes. And I feel like we can all totally relate. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Professor Manzulli.
I know I shouldn't, but I know that part was not in your bio, Jen. I did ad-lib a little bit about the, I noticed that you listed all the male partners, but I just kind of wanted to qualify that you were the only female partner. And I went on the line and checked to make sure that it was, but I did not know that you were the first.
First and only, which is again strange to say that, but yeah.
Yes, with you and Faye, the only women in your, that's amazing. And I feel like I just wanted to note that how you were talking about, that feeling of being dismissed, and that we have the ability, like Faye was saying, we have the choice to choose the second option and to work through it. And I think that adds to both of your qualities, and why we asked you to be a part of this panel, because you chose the second option. And so I just wanted to thank you for sharing that. Rylee, were you in the middle of saying something before?
Oh, yes. Just going off of what you said of Jen, I personally also have mostly experienced ageism because I started working at a very young age. From a young age, I already knew what I was going to do. I knew what I wanted to do, and I just went for it. So I started building my organizations at 7 years old. And I went in for meetings with these CEOs, and I also kind of felt dismissed. I felt like I was there and they were just looking at me like, oh, it's a cute little girl, Also, a lot of people when I was younger tend to look at me, or they would look at me like I was being puppeted, or like I wasn't passionate about what I was doing, which obviously I am. Or they felt like I was being forced or puppeted into doing what I did. But in reality, it was my work, and my parents were just doing the best to support me. Also, I feel like sexism is it's always present. I always feel like girls are just underestimated, which is probably why I feel like the ladies in here know me. They know that I'm over competitive constantly. I'm constantly over competitive. I do not care if I'm challenging a child. I'm over competitive. And yeah, I just tend to go all out, which is, yeah.
Yes, I totally can attest to that. This girl is not shy. And that is why I asked her to be part of this, just knowing how well-spoken she is. So thank you, Rylee. Dr. Ross, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I don't know if academia counts as an industry. It shouldn't, but it probably does. You know, when I was in grad school and I was learning how to do interviews and stuff for my first position, I was told by my supposed mentor in grad school that I would probably get a job because I'm a non-threatening type of female. And this actually, I've made a whole career out of being a non-threatening female. It actually has worked pretty well for me on the whole, but you know, it wasn't something I chose. It turned out that I was non-threatening. But a lot of things in my field were changing, like during the 80s. I was interested in women's writing from the 18th century, and that stuff wasn't available. You know, like you couldn't order paperbacks of these things so that you couldn't teach a course in it. And for a little while, there was this flowering where you could get all of these books and then all that stuff. So it's like, we're right back where we were. You know, it's really hard to get editions of some of these books. People still think that the 18th century was dominated by male novelists. You know, you turn your back for 2 seconds and it goes right back to the way it was. You know, you have to be constantly vigilant. As far as being non-threatening as a teacher, I did learn early on, and I'm sure the rest of you have experienced this, that if you're a woman, you have to be really careful not to show anger, because the minute you look angry in a situation, you've pretty much lost control of it. If you're standing in front of a classroom and somebody is really, really, really annoying, Kamahele, you've seen how I manage usually not to do anything about it, except, you know, I mean, I have lost it sometimes, and I've paid for that. You know, I've said some sarcastic thing that I should have kept to myself. But for the most part, you know, learning how to just not react with anger, no matter how much you're provoked. It seems like it's way more necessary for women still, you know, than it is for men. So I'd be curious about whether other people have experienced that.
And see, I'm the opposite. So I can totally relate onto like how people just look at you and they already assume that you're one way. And if I'm a little bit more outspoken, people automatically think that I'm loud or I'm uncontrollable or annoying. So they just, oh, that's just her. She's just loud. That's the way she is. Like this loud, boisterous woman. And, you know, I can relate on that aspect that, you know, people just will sometimes look at a woman and they automatically define who you are. And so I felt that a lot. I'm a student now, but I volunteer in the nonprofit sector. I've had a lot of jobs since I moved here from Guam, and people also, I felt because of the way I project or something like that, people automatically, oh, like they don't take me seriously. And that is my biggest pet peeve. So I get it. But yeah, Professor Manzulli, did you want to add anything else before we move on to the next question?
Oh, I'm chomping at the bit to answer this. I know I'm not
oh, yes. No,
supposed to be asking the questions, but this definitely resonates very close to my life story. Being I was raised with 5 brothers, and I was the only female in the family. And that's a really girly, froofy route. I rose to the very yang. I was a very, you know, the tomboy, because that, to me, I saw at an early age that got most perks was to be stronger and smarter than everybody in the family. I mean, that was my secret weapon. And I'm going to ask a question later about what was your secret weapon. It was a loud Italian family, so it was be louder, be stronger, or at least as strong as. And I chose the education route to get out of all that, and it was very helpful. But to your point, Kayla, I often had I was the opposite of Deborah. I was the mouthy, loud one, but I just think I spoke out. I spoke out for my mother, who was a servant to all of those guys. You know, I said no at a very early age to a lot of things, and and moving from Chicago to Hawaii, I experienced really I experienced a lot of no's early in breaking through the culture. And trying to maintain my identity and also carve a niche for myself here. I was told to lower it down you go. Clients that were largely Asian male dominated clients. And, you know, I was the white woman. You know, there was just so many times where I had to choose to not be, choose strength, empowerment, choose talent, you know, play with your lead skill, which is, you know, either your intellect or your talent. And I definitely played off the talent card more, you know. And then even breaking into education after many years of working in the field, Deborah, you'll know more than anything that there's other boundaries that it's hard to break into once you're identified as a certain type, when you're typecast in like, oh, well, you're from the business field, how can you be in academia? And it's like, oh no, same thing, the Maybe Survived with 5 brothers. So, so this is a topic that's very true and dear to my heart. I left some agencies because I did a way that there was never gonna make me partner. So that's why I chose to be an entrepreneur and work for myself.
Found our majors not to take my class because it wouldn't help them with the GREs. So that's how I ended up at HPU. You know, that was.
There's clubs everywhere. And we should carry on with the next question. Yeah, Michaela?
Yeah, sure. Awesome. Thank you, Professor Manzulli. This is why we love you as our advisor. So our next question, has the media been friend or foe to the modern feminists? And anybody can jump in.
Oh, I can't hear you, Michaela.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, wait, you totally froze.
We can hear you now. We lost the question itself.
Oh, okay. Let me repeat it. Sorry. My internet's acting up too. Has the media been friend or foe to the modern feminists? And anybody can jump in.
I have to be honest, I think it's been a foe for the most part. And I'm someone who's in advertising, and it's really hard. I think that it's even worse now because of social media, but I think that media just traditionally, whether you're talking about advertising or entertainment, has historically held women to this impossible standard, and men as well. But I think we've got a long way to go to more representation. I think it's improving, but I have to myself, when we're thinking about, you know, a concept for an ad, think beyond my own preconceived notions or what I've, you know, historically been told about period for casting has been kind or supportive to women.
Could I just say too, from studying images of women over the years, I've noticed that, you know, there's a tendency to try to make women in movies like be able to sword fight and stuff like that, and that's supposed to fix it. But
in heel,
you know, if you use them, yeah, I think the problem isn't even quite as much like or how anything. It's a question of, do we see them as subjects or just as objects? Like, are we ever seeing a woman alone in a scene thinking about something, or are we watching her do something? You know, and it's like, if the camera is always sort of objective, and I think that male gaze thing, it just, I think people don't, they under willing to show somebody's internal state ends up objectifying them, even if, you know, even if they're doing all kinds of really active things.
This is so true. Oh, somebody else have something to add?
I think that the media has been kind of both. From experience, I know interviews can be cut and edited, and then it completely changes the narrative. I've had a few news interviews where I went on to talk about something serious, and just because I was a kid, they cut it and edited it to make it look like something that's fun. Also, I think the media can they tend to over-sexualize women quite a bit. And women are often portrayed as the damsel in distress, right? A lot of the movies or fairy tales that I watched growing up, the women are always the damsel in distress. So I think it can be both.
So true. And I think it's so interesting because people have been trying to, a lot of movies have come up where they're like trying to redo the rom-com and everything and try to revamp it, but it still can be so problematic. But did anybody else want to add anything?
I guess I'll add something. So I think I agree, you know, with Jen that I think so I do I'm a fashion editor, so I do styling, wardrobe styling for a lot of photo shoots where we do castings for models. And, you know, unfortunately, when it comes to like an image of what type of, it's not just up to us, but it's also, we have to take into consideration the brands that we're featuring. And the brands, you know, they have kind of like their, I don't want to say standards, but they have what they, you know, want, you know, the type of person they want wearing their clothes, the type of person they want their brand, you know, they, part of them allowing us to use their brands is that they trust that we will select, you know, that type of model who, you know, usually ends up having to be tall, slim, you know, all of that. And which, and then, you know, Jen mentioned social media, which hasn't, I agree, has not helped. And I think another thing that hasn't helped is Photoshop, because, you know, you have these models who are already, they get touched up to be even more beautiful. And it's like, you know, men, especially I think what they need to be. And celebrity photo shoots. And a lot of times the brands will let us pull clothes for the fashion shoots. But when it comes to the celebrity shoots, even though they might be a big name celebrity, they might not have the body that will make their clothes, you know, the way they want it to look or something like that. And they'll actually turn down participating in that photo shoot, even though this person is like really famous, as opposed to, you know, a model that maybe someone has, as no one knows, but, you know, they have what they see as like the body, the perfect body. And I don't know. So I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know, you know, when that will, if and when that will ever change. But at the same time, being in media, one of the things that I am proud of is our ability to tell stories of women. I take great pride in telling stories about local, you know, local success stories. And it's whether they're men or women. But of course, I think bonus, right, if they are women. And I think today, there's so many amazing women with amazing stories that are even more young girls, you know, and I think that's where we can kind of get that balance, is to find these stories, share them, and then these stories will inspire these girls what their social status or class, you know, whether they're rich or poor or middle, if they're middle class, it doesn't, you know, because there's so many stories out there. And I think about like all across the board, we have CEOs, you know, who are women. We have recently we have two Nobel Prize winners who were women with Hawaii ties. We have, you know, bank CEOs. I mean, there's just so many success stories of women that I think if we can, the more stories like that we can find and share, it'll really help kind of balance that image of what that perfect woman is supposed to be.
Yes, I totally agree. We're going to have a question in the next section that relates to that. But Faye, did you have anything to add?
I agree. I mean, I support everything that it has been shared, but I personally feel that media is, let me look to my notes, is a double-edged sword that has applauded and supported women, and also it has criticized them and shred them to pieces. In that sense, I relate to Rylee. Like, I think it plays both ways, and it really depends on who is behind it, which brain and soul is writing and using that medium to portray women.
I think just rethinking gender in general, right? Because there are many individuals that don't identify as female or male. So I think that's something that we've been talking a lot about at Wall to Wall in terms of representation, whether it's in our staff or themselves, and even the way that we talk about it.
Yes, for sure.
Making sure that stereotypes or language that is antiquated, and it's something that I'm certainly learning a lot about, and it's definitely, you know, there's so many things, I think, especially this year, that we're all trying to learn, unlearn, relearn, and this is just all part of that conversation.
So true. I think we should move on to our next session. I think that's a good segue. Breaking down social constructs of women and beauty. Professor Manzulli, take it away.
Well, as I guess the first question was, you know, I was thinking this would be a good segue to the one on fashion and beauty, Michaela.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Can I just roll that out? And
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. So we really did want to get your input on this, you know, considering the change in some beauty and fashion industries and the way we're representing women in media, and even product development to cater more to these diverse audiences. You know, there's the Dove campaigns, you know, the Real Beauty, looking at all different shapes, sizes, skin colors, product development, finally coming to, you know, different products that, you know, acknowledge all skin tones and colors. I think you had a couple of other examples, Michaela, but I guess our question is whether we're looking at different size and skin color, you know, what are some of these reasons why there isn't even a greater push? And for those of us in the field of, you know, media and advertising and such is one thing, but also representing through story and the written word, you know, what's taking so long? Why isn't there a more inclusion in, you know, showing all different sizes and shapes and, you know, representation? So I guess we'd just like to have a little bit of conversation like that.
Well, I just want to share one thing. So one of the things that I thought was such a great idea, and something that I was just really happy about, was it was about maybe 3 years ago. Barbie actually came out with Barbie dolls. There was curvy Barbie, petite Barbie, tall Barbie, and it was so amazing. I actually bought like all of them for my niece as a way to show her, you know, like that you know, Barbie isn't just this one Barbie. It's you know, this is the reality, is like they come in all different sizes, all different colors, all different shapes. And it was so great. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is genius. Until I found out they weren't selling. It was like people, I remember I literally bought them all and bought them all for my nieces and my, you know, friends with girls. Unfortunately, I have boys. But the good thing is my sons were with me when I bought them, so it was also a lesson for them as well. But the person at the store, it was Macy's, was like, they were discounted because people weren't buying them, and that I don't know why. But I thought that was a great kind of step in that direction of promoting diversity, and not just race, but in all, you know, other aspects. But unfortunately, kind of going back to what I was talking about with our fashion shoots, a lot of brands, I think, you know, especially when it comes to like runways, there is, and I know this for sure, is they have rules like the girls has to be, they have at least a certain height. They have, you know, their waist can't be bigger than this. Even their feet can't be bigger than a certain size. And that, you know, unfortunately, I don't know. Again, I don't know like how to change that, but I do think that the more it's talked about and the more people talk about it, hopefully, you know, that can change. But yeah, but I don't know the solution.
I think it comes down to pressure from consumers. So we are all consumers. And if enough of the collective voice expresses their desire to see better representation, more diverse representation in products, in advertising, then the businesses, because at the end of the day, that's what is driving all of this, will feel more compelled to show and represent that diversity. I mean, you know, for those of you who aren't familiar with advertising, I mean, it's not, when we cast for a commercial or ads, it's not because of what Jen wants or even what the creative team wants. I mean, we influence that, but everything is based, if we've done our job correctly, we're basing this on a lot of research and knowledge about our desired target audience for that particular product or service. So when we're developing our creative, it's based on, you know, marketing business objectives of our client, and who are the audiences that we serve or that we hope to reach. And our creative should reflect something that allows for an emotional connection from that advertising campaign to that audience. So it takes a combination of, you know, us compelling in a strategic and well thought out way to our client what needs to be done to reach that audience. And then it takes a progressive and open-minded client to realize that, okay, it's not, this particular campaign is not about having, you know, a blonde 5'10" model with a 24-inch waist. I mean, this is about, you know, our audience does not reflect that. So how can we cast for this campaign to show representation so somebody feels an emotional connection, so somebody feels that you understand who they are? So, you know, it's something that I think about a lot when we're working on projects for clients, because we have clients that tend to skew more for, you know, they want a certain look of a certain model or a certain actress to represent their hotel or their restaurant. And then we have others that, you know, it's a service, it's a bank, it's a financial institution. And we have more flexibility because we're telling them, like, these are the audiences we're serving. And, you know, this is what we feel represents a family that you're trying to reach. But ultimately, it does take people using their voice and expressing to organizations that representation matters. And it can happen in the opposite way too. I know Oreo has been really progressive, IKEA has been really progressive Barbie's been really progressive, but in particular, like Oreo and IKEA have represented families with same-sex parents. They do all kinds of, you know, research and really just, you know, have made a conscious decision as a company that part of their brand is to be inclusive. And that bothers people too, but they don't care. You know, they're basically like, we don't really care if you are hating on our campaign that features a same-sex couple. That's great, but we're not talking to you. So we're talking to families that actually believe that that's the right thing to do, and we need to be open and inclusive in that way.
Yeah, it's so interesting just to like realize how we play a part as consumers. So yes, thank you for that. We're running a little low on time. So I just want to make sure that we have some time for a Q&A. So maybe if one more person wants to add something, and then we'll just do an overall combined last question for the third part.
Okay. I'm gonna go. A lot of companies know, that sexy makes money, right? That's what that's what society has created a market for, right? Sexy makes money. And then even though I know Dove has tried to, and a bunch of different companies have tried to normalize different body types that aren't just tall, slim, and like that, and create more wholesome images. At the end of the day, sexy is more profitable. And companies aren't going to want to change simply off of the fact that they're going to make more money off of sexy, right? I can personally give you an example. I can post a picture of me out in the community doing community service, and that won't get as much likes as if I were to post a bikini picture or a picture in a crop top, right? On Instagram, you can see how many people have saved, how many people have viewed, and how many people have skipped your Instagrams. And my most saved things on Instagram that people have saved are pictures of me in a bikini for bikini companies, right? And I don't like that society sees sexy as this is the way you have to be, right? But that's kind of why I understand why a business would stick to advertising this a certain way, right? It makes more money, it gets more shoes, it gets more likes when it's sexy or more provocative.
So true. And I can relate to this because we both do nonprofit work. So my pictures of us doing community work will get maybe one comment as opposed to a picture of me like in a dress, dressed up, oh, work it girl, like a dozen different comments. So can relate. But
can I jump in here too?
Oh yeah, sure, Dr.
One thought, which is I'm also, as an old person, you know, wanting us to ask why certain images are seen as sexy. That, I mean, even that, you know, like, you know, sex may sell, but like sexy to whom is what I keep wondering. Like,
Exactly.
why is a bikini, you know, why is a certain body type sexy?
Right.
And that's really, really sexist, because that's really some man's idea of what a woman is supposed to look like. And it all comes back to that. My daughter had paleontologist Barbie, by the way. She, you know, there was that line of Barbies that all had careers.
Yes.
And, you know, paleontologist Barbie was my daughter's favorite. Paleontologist Barbie still had a comb and a mirror. She was out there, you know, digging up bones, and she still was worrying about her hair, you know? So, I mean, when are we ever allowed to not even think about what we look like for 2 seconds, you know? It's just my thought.
I just want you guys to know that I think community service is very sexy.
Yeah.
For the record.
Thank you. But sorry, go ahead.
Barbies. I only had G.I. Joes in our house, which is sexy. Sorry, but yeah, you know what? I just want to just tiptoe into this, because we've been talking about media, and then, you know, let's not forget that social media. Look what we can do with social media. I mean, with everybody is, especially younger people, not to be ageist about it, but so many decision making is made in group, in mass, with lots of likes, with lots of buy-in, whether you're buying a dress for the prom or what's the best iPhone. So there is this group think using media in a progressive way to be change makers. So if that same kind of ability to, call in your troops and say no to the bikini shots or what have you, and yes to, public service is the new sexy because we say so, because we want to make a freaking difference here. This does come from you. It starts with you. It starts with us right now in this moment. I mean, it's Saturday night. You can be doing anything you want, and you are here. So, yeah, I don't think the media has been great friends to women all these years. I think it's objectified us in a lot of different ways, but it's also created a platform in which to be heard, to be seen for what it is you want to be seen. So you're the director and the subject. You choose the frame that you want to project. We have that ability to turn the camera around, not just on your selfie, but, how you want to be seen by other people. And, I'm kind of going off on this, but I do want to encourage, especially you guys who are such friends of social medias, to use it and work that. Yeah. But Kayla, I was thinking, that maybe going into their tips for mentoring would be a great idea at this point.
Sure, yeah. I'm sorry, say it one more time. My internet's acting crazy.
Open it to Q&A and close with that. That's totally up to you.
Sure. It's okay. We can just finish with this last question. I'll go ahead and combine 2 and 3. So as modern feminist mentors, what message would you like to deliver to young women today, or to even our allies? And how can we support each other in uplifting each other's voices? And anybody can jump in. Should I repeat the question one more time? Yeah, okay. So as modern feminist mentors, what message would you like to deliver to young women today, and also to our allies, as well as how can we support each other in uplifting each other's voices?
I'd like to just say that I think, writing is really important. You know that, Michaela. It's like, so if people are going to tune you out because you're loud, I was tuned out because I was too soft, but my writing has always been really powerful. And people used to say to me, your writing voice doesn't sound anything like the you that I see in person. And I think, when you're writing and you're not thinking about what you look like, and, you have more control over the sound of your voice to other people. I think if you can really get control over that, it's really amazing what you can do. And all of the other stuff about image can then become sort of secondary.
Yes, I totally agree. I feel, for me anyways, I know for a fact that people listen more when I write, and I hand them something and read this. When I am passionate about a piece of work, I'm an English major, so that's where this is coming from. But I'm passionate about a piece of work where I feel like it says something new and different to whether it be my culture or for me as a woman. It speaks volumes. Like, I feel like I can have more of a conversation with something over something important if I wrote about it, because they're forced to listen. If you hand them the piece, they have to read it in front of you or else. But yeah, does anybody else have anything to add?
Yes, I would like to add that, well, for young women and not young women, who you are matters, and what you do matters, and the world out there is craving your authentic self. So if you can connect and feed and fuel yourself, who you are, and don't even pay attention of how many likes you get or don't get or things like that, but just be true and honest to yourself 100%. That will be, vulnerability. Don't aim, though plenty of AnnMarie, and my advice.
I wanted to say, just
Great.
stop comparing yourself to others, stop judging others. I cannot stress how much time I have wasted worrying about how others think of me. We should start, us ladies, we should start encouraging others, cheering each other on, right? When you understand that your success doesn't depend on someone else's failure, and that there's enough success, a lot easier to focus on your own journey. And we just have to stop being consumed with what everybody else thinks of us. That's my advice.
Yes, thank you, Rylee. Shing, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I guess my little tip based on just, I guess, my career journey would be one, which is actually maybe a little bit challenging right now in a pandemic, but networking, I think, is huge. As you know, because it, you know, getting your face and your name and your face out there to people who might be like the decision makers or the you know, the leaders in whatever field it is that you want to go into, I think will help when it, you know, when it comes to like having to choose between, you know, or even if it's just like, oh, we're looking for someone for something, and they remember you because you made an impression on them at an event or something. Like, you know, I think networking is really, really, really helpful and important. And then at the same time, I think just hard work, I think, is still kind of the hard work is still kind of what will win you over the rest of the people, even over appearance, race, all of that. Because I think the more women, I do believe this though, the more women we have in those executive positions, in those decision-making positions, will help. And I'll give a quick little example is when I did move into management position where I was allowed or not allowed, but I was part of the discussion of hiring someone or giving, you know, or we had an opportunity for someone to do something. There were times where I felt like the other people were leaning towards maybe the prettier person who they interviewed or the younger person they interviewed, you know, and I felt like I was able to reel them back in and say, hey, let's look at their qualifications. You know, this person is obviously way more qualified, like, you know, and kind of, you know, kind of take away that, I mean, it's kind of like that TV show, The Voice, right? You're basing it off of what you hear, and in that specific type of competition, which is The Voice, right? So it doesn't matter what they look like. And I think, you know, if we can get people to go back to that and look at people's qualifications and you know, abilities and skills, and not what race they are, what gender they are, what, you know, and what they look like, you know, I think that, I don't know, that's my hope. That I mean, I hope that's where we are now. I don't know if it is, but I think the more women that we can get into these positions, I think will definitely help us get there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shing. Jen, you want to close us off?
Sure. I mean, I agree with everything that these wonderful women have said. I echo what they're saying. Be authentic. don't listen or care about what other people think. I mean, I think we're always going to a certain degree, but really just focus on the people that matter. I think that's what's the most disheartening thing about social media, is it just gives anyone access to you to say anything they want to. And I think that it's really doing people, in particular younger people, a disservice, because you're putting weight on opinions that ultimately don't matter at all. I would say that, especially when you're starting your career, but throughout life, surround yourself with people that you admire. And it may not be someone who ends up in the industry or business or academic circles that you want to, but just women that you admire, that you think represent the kind of person that you'd like to be. Not that you're going to emulate and copy what they've done in their path, but look at people who you admire for whatever reason and see, how you can surround yourself with those kinds of people. Authenticity is so important. Just have faith that the person that you're trying to be is who you're supposed to be. Don't try to be somebody else. And I'm just going to reiterate that I think financial literacy is so important for women. It's something that I had to learn the hard way throughout my adulthood. Made lots of mistakes. I didn't grow up with any kind of financial education, so I had to sort of piece it together myself. And now I'm just someone who's really a proponent of women taking control of their own financial literacy and their own path. And it's not hard once you start to learn. It has nothing to do with being good at math, and you're totally capable of doing it. But once you're able to put certain things in place for yourself, then you'll feel like you can do anything. And a lot of those barriers will be removed because you have the autonomy to do what you want to do.
So good. Thank you so much. Thank you, all of our panelists. We want to go into a Q&A section, but I do want to say, I just feel like there's something so powerful about just having a group of women come together and just letting them speak. So I just want to thank you guys again. Round of applause, even if you're on mute. I'm so grateful for all of you guys. We as a club are so grateful for all of you guys joining us. And we're going to go ahead and start our Q&A section. Guys, if you want to type a question in the chat box, and then we can have our panelists answer. We'll give a couple minutes to Q&A, and then we'll do our giveaway. And if you can prep that for the giveaway.
Kind of while people are typing questions, I just one thought that I have on that last question. If
yes.
you want. It's kind of interesting to be sitting here at, like, I'm 59 years old right now, and I still can't believe I'm this old. It's that sort of thing. We're talking about things that are from 40 years ago. Looking and having my own, raising 2 daughters, and going like, what is your secret weapon? This is kind of one of the questions I really wanted to ask for everybody and to think about that. And I just think that, part of being authentic self is, where we sit now is that confidence is really a thing that does grow with you. But if you have a vision of something like Jen was saying, of that person that you want to become, that maybe you're not there yet, and you have that kind of this visualization of the person that you are becoming, confidence is sexy, man. I mean, it is a really, it's really a very, when you're smart, when you know what you want, you know who you are, and you're just confident in your skin, whatever that color is, whatever that shape, that body of yours happens to be this month, be confident in that. Trust your intuitive guidance. That's a thing that maybe that sounds too female, but I'm a fan of following the guidance, because really that's just an assimilation of your knowledge, your knowingness, right? So I see there's some questions, but I'm saying be confident who you are, no matter what stage you're at.
So good. Thank you, Professor Manzulli. So we have a question from Davin. He said, it does seem that the typical blonde 5'10" marketing is at odds with more diverse types and represent more than just that demographic, but why? Surely it's not truly a one or the other situation. Someone wants to jump in.
So I think it's not one or the other. I think what's happened and what is problematic, because this is not against a knock against anyone who is blonde and 5'10". Okay, so I think, you know, we have to be careful about how we talk about this. But I think what is problematic is that has historically been the litmus test for what's beautiful or what's attractive or what's appealing to people. And it essentially disenfranchises the vast majority of the world, certainly the population here in Hawaii and in most places. It should be that you feel that someone who is not that height, who is not a certain weight, who doesn't have a certain color skin is just as beautiful, or maybe even more beautiful than what we've been fed over time. I mean, I played with Barbies growing up. I loved Barbies. I still love Barbie. But I have to say that one of the most exciting moments of getting Barbies was when there was finally like a brunette one, and when there was finally an Asian one, because I felt like, wow, all my Barbies at the time, I just said yellow hair. All my Barbies have yellow hair. Now there's a Barbie with brown hair. Now there's a Barbie with black hair. And it was so incredibly exciting to me. I remember watching TV and thinking like, oh my gosh, look, there's an Asian dancer. Carrie Ann Inaba in Living Color, for those of you who are old enough to know that show. It was so exciting to me as somebody who took dance that there was actually a non-white person, a non-white dancer who was on a national TV show. So I think it's just representation and moving away from this idea that that is sort of the baseline of beauty. And it can happen in even these really weird, subtle ways, like in infographics. There was a flyer that we were working on, and it was like, wait, hold on a second. Why does this person look Caucasian? You know, why is it the default that the icon illustration is super simplistic, but why can't a person have darker skin? It wasn't that it couldn't, it's just that I think in our own minds, we just default to that being the baseline. And that's incredibly disheartening if you're somebody that doesn't fit that profile.
How about if we turn off all of the screens for a little while and go to an art museum and see that, you know, like for 400 or 500 years, there was actually these other different standards of beauty. I mean, maybe the problem is that we're just watching too much of this stuff. You know, no matter how much representation you get on there, you know, you got to stop focusing on projected images all the time.
Bring back the Rubenesque period.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I absolutely agree with you. I think that people are aspiring to be what already has been established as beautiful for so long in the media.
Yeah. Did anybody, thank you, Rylee. Did anybody else have anything else to add before we move on to the next question? Thank you, Davin, for that question. No? Okay, so we have a question from Tatiana. How do you think, from Eva. What do you think is the most important experience a woman can gain while getting her degree? What is something you would encourage us to do before going into the professional world? And anybody can jump in.
Take a writing minor. It combines very easily with all of your other majors. Seriously, write. You know, be the only person in law school who can write, and they'll put you in charge of other people to teach them how to write, even in your first year of law school. Seriously.
I think any kind of experience that you can get, I'm not sure what degree you're trying to seek, but the best experiences for me were just getting internships, you know, even if they didn't pay much or they only gave school credit, just getting some real life work experience, because it was a rude awakening, at least for me, to see how different it was to actually be working at an advertising agency versus, you know, having 3 weeks to work on one tiny ad in school, you know, just to get a better sense of timing of things. And again, I can only speak from my own career, but it also helped with what Shing was talking about in terms of networking. You know, if you can start to lay the foundation of actually meeting professionals in your desired field before you're done with school, those connections can be really valuable.
Yes. Did anybody else want to add before we move on to the next question? Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I'll just add one.
Yeah.
Because for me, my career, I really, when I think about it, I really owe it to my, I guess, what would his title be? The department chair of my school when I was at UH. Because, and we still do this today, is when we have a job opening, we'll post the job openings, you know, in different places, but we also will reach out to the colleges, to the college campuses, you know, relationships with specifically the journal department, and we'll let them know, like, hey, you know, we have this job opening here, you know, do you have any recent graduates that you think would be a good fit for this, you know, can you send them our way? And so that's actually how I got my job 21 years ago. Is my I had already graduated, and it was maybe, I think, half a year had already gone by, and wasn't working in my field, but I had done a couple of internships. And my professor called me and said, hey, you know, we just were told there's this job opening and I think you should go apply. Anyways, I did, and here I am 21 years later. So my point is the networking. Also, someone else, I can't remember who, but someone else mentioned about surrounding yourself around people that you admire, and you can even network within the campus itself, is what I'm saying. Your professors, because they most likely know people in the field that you're studying or pursuing. So yes, that's all. Sorry.
Yes, thank you, Shing. So we'll just do this last question, and then we'll go ahead and do the giveaway and closing remarks. So this is a question from Tatiana. How do you think female characters have changed? I was watching the sitcoms Girlfriends from the early 2000s and noticed that a lot of shows during that time had the same theme. The woman's main plot was drinking wine and worrying about marriage / being in a relationship. So how do you think
this question, I think, was made for me because I've been watching TV since 1960. And I think what a lot of people forget is that there was this wonderful period where there were all these sort of feminist shows on TV. You know, it was One Day at a Time, and there was, you know, Designing Women and all of this stuff, Maude, and it all existed. And when I watch those sometimes on cable, I think, wow, you could never say that stuff now. You know, people would just never. So it's not like progress is some kind of straight line. It just completely isn't. Things come and go.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Ross. Did anybody else have anything to add on that last question?
I think that kids now are just growing up a lot faster. If you were to compare two different shows, let's say maybe like Boy Meets World, I just finished watching that. Boy Meets World and Riverdale, right? They're both high schoolers around the same age. Boy Meets World was canceled and Riverdale is still running, and that's because they're doing a lot more different things. In Riverdale, they're having sex, they're doing more sexy things, right? They're dealing drugs. They're just doing a lot more grown-up things now.
I would say that teens were doing those things in shows from the 80s and 90s, 70s, 80s, and 90s too. It was just expressed in a different way. And I think, and I do see a change. I mean, I think a lot of things that we've seen historically with television shows have to do with the fact that most writers, and even to this day, are men. So a lot of a lot of it has to do with what their perception of what a woman is going to watch is, honestly. And I think the shows that have female producers, have female writers, I think Faye should jump in on this conversation too as a director and producer, but I think that that's evolving. I think that that's changing. It's not perfect, but I think that the more diversity we can have in terms of ethnic representation, more females who are funding the content that we're seeing, there'll be more of an evolution. And I'm already starting to see it myself. I'm really careful what I watch because I have an 11-year-old daughter, and I'm really cognizant of what she consumes. I'm really worried about it. I mean, I don't let her go on social media. I'm really worried about even letting her have a phone. You know, I'm really aware of how damaging a lot of the interactions on social media and a lot of the media content can be, especially to girls, young girls. So.
Yeah, definitely. Faye, did you want to jump in?
Sure. I think I would trace it back to, I think it was you, Shing, the one that said that we, as women that have access, certain kind of power, or better word choice will be influence, we can influence and we can be ambassadors of promoting that change. And we can explore and take a moment and pause and say, wait a minute, just like Jen said before, why is it that by default we have these images of what could be when we have a whole variety of a different palette of choices depending of who we're talking to. So as we women step into certain positions, then we can definitely influence and change the narrative and write more and express more and voice more. And that way we can promote change. We're activists and we can promote change.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Hey, Professor Manzulli, did you want to add anything before we close off?
Well, gosh, there's so much to say here, and I've just been so happy to listen to so many other people speak, and I'm just wondering if any of our officers would like to share anything. You know, some of you co-creators of this event, if you have any comments or questions or observations, I'd rather surrender my time to hear what some of our other young women that are here right now would like to say. Doesn't have to be a question, it could just be an observation or comment.
Well, I've been talking this whole thing, so go ahead.
Hi, I'm one of our co-presidents. I'm a gender and women's studies minor, and like we don't have as many classes this semester, so I haven't been able to take that many. So it was really great to hear all you guys, because this is the reason why I wanted to do this minor, because I love women empowerment, everything having to do with that, and being a part of her campus. So thank you.
Yeah, anybody else want to share anything before we close it out? And we'll move on to our giveaway real quick. No? Are we good? Okay, so I think that was the perfect, ending to this panel, and I just want to say thank you again. Yes, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that you guys that you all showed up. And I'm gonna pass it on to Maya. We're gonna go ahead and do our giveaway. But thank you again for listening. Thank you, panelists, for coming and speaking your mind. I'm so appreciative. I know everybody here is appreciative, so thank you for that. Go ahead, Maya, you can share your screen.
Do we get to do a drum roll?
Oh.
So, Rylee, can you make me the host?
Nah, we're gonna do a spin the wheel, so it'll be fun.
There we go. Okay. Can everyone see you spin the wheel?
Look at how cool this thing is. Oh, where'd it go? I love this. Look at this thing. So excited by this. Oh, I don't hear the audio. Picture wheel, huh?
It's slowing down.
This is the cutest thing.
It's still going. It's slow on my side.
Yeah.
Still spinning, Maya?
It's running. It's just lagging. There we go. We have a winner.
There you go.
So Davin is our giveaway winner. If you could private message one of our officers, Jaitlin.
We're just gonna email them, Maya.
Oh, okay. We'll contact you for the information of your prize.
And then we'll have that mailed to you. Congratulations. What's the call? Okay. Thank you. And Maya, go ahead. You can close us out.
Sorry, my laptop is like super lagging tonight. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining and participating in our discussion. I want to thank all the panelists, Hawaii Pacific University and HPU, as well as Akamai. I also want to give a special thank you to our advisor, Professor Manzulli, and our event director, Michaela, for making this event possible. We hope that you all leave today not only with more knowledge, but feeling more empowered to lift up others and be unapologetically you. With that, this concludes our discussion panel. Continue to educate and continue to educate and empower.
Yes, thank you everybody for coming. We're so grateful to have
Thank you all for having me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. This is wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you, panelists. Thank you, Dr. Ross, you, Shing, Faye, Rylee, Jen. We're so grateful to have you. And we will be sending you guys your thank you gifts. So just be on the lookout for that.
If you need interns, here's some interns right here, anybody. Here's right here, my whole goal. Introduce to the top right here.
Yes, and that's all for our panel. We're so appreciate you guys for joining. Thank you, her campus members. Good job.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
For 1 second. Way to go, y'all. That was amazing. That was amazing.
Good job, Michaela. Thank you, Professor Manzulli.
Yes, you did.
Professor Manzulli.
So empowering, man. I'm totally loved it. Felt so great. And it was like a perfect amount of people in the window, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, if we got any more people, I think it would have, would have been there for 3 hours.
Yeah, then we wouldn't have been able to go to, have to go in between all those different screens. So it was really well done, really well moderated, well produced. And thank you guys so much for giving up your Saturday. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Manzulli.
One guy, and he got the prize.
Okay, we're gonna have to go buy him something else because it's all women stuff. So yeah,
you got all girl stuff? That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's like hair stuff and face products. So maybe we'll do a male spa. Yeah.
Or feel like a woman. Like, hey, you want to be a modern feminist? Start with these tampons right here. You know.
Educate.
I just love it. Actually, I love that he was here. He had great questions. And I think it's really cool that we had a male at our modern feminist event. It was wonderful.
I was going to point it out, but I was like, is that less progressive or more so? So I was just like, let's just not just point him out. I was going to be like, thank you for being the only guy, Devin. So, yeah.
It was cool. It was very cool. And my Ava's here. I'm happy to be part of it. And anyway, I just feel like this is a series waiting to happen. And I just really, really appreciate you both and the whole team. You guys did so well. So thank you.
Thank you. We couldn't have done it without you. We were lagging on panelists. So thank you. They were great.
Awesome. All right. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye. Bye. Bye, Maya. Or do we need to talk to anything?
Oh, no, I
No,
think
we're
we're good. If you want to talk,
Okay. No, we're good. Okay, we'll see. I'll see you guys later. Bye. Thank you.